push a button and it'll turn on.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 2nd, 2026 council meeting. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that the Coast Salish people, specifically the Shianu First Nation, on whose territory this district Metchosin building stands, and our near neighbors, the Sook First Nation, as well as the Pachidat First Nation. We recognize and respect our First Nations governments, all of whom have a long-standing relationship with the land and the sea waters that continue to this day. And with that, I just want to acknowledge that we have Councillor Jay Shukin on video, non-video, but on audio this evening. As well, in-house, we are welcoming our new fire chief, Mr. Dan Verdun, over here, who is joining us for his first day and his first council meeting. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, council, we have an agenda before us. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the pink item? Moved by Councillor Jay. You can hear us. That's great. Seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And this evening we are delighted to have a presentation by Ms. Jill Cowlrick regarding the proposed Metchosin Medical Clinic update. Jill. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you for allowing me some time to speak again tonight about the, oh, is that not shouting? It's okay? Oh, great, okay, thank you for that. Yeah, good. So thank you again for having me and for letting me provide some updates on the project to bring a medical clinic to Metchosin. So for those of you who haven't met me yet, I'm a nurse practitioner who has lived in Metchosin for the last 10 years on Kangaroo Road, and I've been commuting into Victoria for work this whole time, but I finally have got my act together and I'm starting up a clinic out here. So the proposal is to create a primary care clinic that is multidisciplinary and will provide all sorts of care access to people in Metchosin, Shianu, and East Sook. And then if we have capacity, we'll expand beyond those borders into Sook and Colwood as our capacity allows. We're gonna have to do a phased approach with the clinic opening due to funding restrictions that are currently in place, and I'll explain a little bit about that as time goes on. So during the first phase of the clinic opening, we're gonna have medical staff on site, so that'll be family medicine and palliative medicine provided by nurse practitioners. We have got 3 nurse practitioner contracts, which would support 3,000 people to get family care at the clinic. And we're hoping to secure another 2 contracts, which would then equate to 5,000 patients who have primary care providers in the community. Family nurse practitioners can do all of the same things that family physicians can do, so the care is equivalent. So we will exclusively have family medicine and palliative medicine provided by nurse practitioners in the community, which will include things like home visits for people who are unable to get out of the house, and full scope palliative care, including right from a terminal diagnosis through to end of life care at home or in hospice, or by other means as people decide for themselves. We also have at least one pediatrician who is interested in working at the clinic 1 day a week, possibly two. So that's evolving with time. We have a physical medicine and rehabilitation physician who is interested in working at the clinic a few days a week. And we are working to secure a geriatrician who specializes in care for older folks, who would also come work at the clinic at least a day a week or so. And then we also have a midwife who will be starting at the clinic next summer when she's back from her mat leave. So that'll be the medical staff mix, and all of those, hopefully, except the midwife, can start working in the fall, which is our target for opening the clinic. We'll also have MOAs on site as well, so medical office assistants to basically run the clinic. We are hopeful that we can also find a counselor that we can organize payment for through our overhead, so that people don't have to pay to see the counselor, but that's still a work in progress. So closer to the time, we'll be able to work out those details. So that would be phase one, where those services would be open and we would start attaching people to primary care providers right away. The next phase would be sometime next year, hopefully, but it is dependent on funding that will be available from the provincial government in terms of clinician salaries. So currently there is no funding for new nursing positions in the clinic, social work, physiotherapy, mental health and substance use, or really any other allied health contracts. And so we're not able to fund those positions right now, so those clinicians cannot start in the fall, but we'll be waiting on the provincial government to announce those changes, hopefully by next year sometime. So when those positions become available, we'll add those team members as well. In addition to that, we're working with Metchosin College to bring diagnostic support on site, where students and instructors will come to the clinic a couple of days a week and offer blood testing services, X-ray, ECG, and ultrasound, so that people don't have to leave the community in order to get those services. Once the clinic is up and running, all the services will be fully covered by provincial Ministry of Health funding, so no ongoing fundraising will be needed. We're currently in the fundraising phase, and I can give more details about that if people need them, but they are on our lovely society's website. It's the, oh, sorry, the name's not up there, but it's the South Island Primary Care Society, and there's a tab that's just for the Metchosin Clinic. We've just done a bunch of stakeholder engagement, including many organizations within Metchosin, the Shianu Health Leadership, ESUC stakeholders, Pearson College, the local pharmacy, and the CRD, and we met with our MLA recently as well. There's an article that will be coming out about the clinic in the Metchosin Muse next month, so hopefully people will be able to read some details in that as well. In terms of fundraising, when we can start building the clinic is entirely determined on how quickly the fundraising goes. Currently it's off to a bit of a slow start, but we're hopeful that it will pick up as time goes on. Once we get to a certain percentage of the fundraising, we can start actually doing construction on the clinic. We think construction will take about 2 months or so, and so hopefully fundraising will be completed by sort of June, and then we build over the summer to open in the fall. So far it's just online donations, but we've got some planned fundraisers starting in April and then May and June. So wait to hear about those, but we'll be posting information about that soon, both online and throughout the community as well. The other thing is that I will be at the Broken Paddle every sort of Tuesday afternoon, about noon to 1:30, for the next couple of weeks anyway. So if anyone wants to come down and ask more specific questions about the clinic, I'm happy to answer them at that time. or over Facebook Messenger or email. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, thanks very much for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, council, does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions because everybody's asking them online, and so I've been reading all the answers. So thank you for filtering those out and making yourself available in the community as well, and then coming here again tonight because people are asking us questions and we don't have all of the information. So you're very accessible. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I apologize in hindsight and in advance for online posting because I am not a usual Facebook user, and so there's a learning curve, but thanks everyone for being so patient with that.
Councillor Gray?
Thanks. No questions tonight, but just thanks again, Jill, for the work that you're doing, and look forward to meeting and talking more.
Yeah, the questions that I've been having, there's some confusion regarding the scope of practice for nurse practitioners. And then secondly, the funding. Why is the funding needed? Perhaps you could address those two.
For sure. Yeah, so nurse practitioners have only been licensed in Canada for about the last 20 years or so, but they've been licensed in the US since the Second World War, essentially. And so they're basically advanced practice registered nurses. So we were registered nurses first, and then we had to have a certain number of years of experience, and then we do a 2-year master's program. And then at the end of the 2 years of master's program, we have the exact same scope as a family physician. So we can diagnose all the same things family physicians can. We can prescribe all the same medications family physicians can. We can order testing like x-rays and CTs and MRIs and blood testing. And we can refer to specialists in exactly the same way that family physicians can. So in that respect, there's no difference in scope whatsoever. We can do all the same things. It's just a different training pathway to get to the same place. In terms of the funding, the Ministry of Health currently has funding available to pay the salaries of clinicians. So once we have a clinic to work in, the ministry will give us a salary, and then there are certain expectations that we have to meet in order to get that salary. So for example, we have to be seeing 1,000 patients in order to get paid. But it's different from fee-for-service in that we're not getting paid by the person by the day. So we don't have to have 10-minute appointments. We have to be connected to 1,000 people. And so the ministry will pay us based on that. But there is no funding at all to build a structure for us to work in. And we cannot get those salary contracts unless we have a physical space to work in. So if I wanted to work out of my house, I couldn't. There has to be a physical clinic. And so because there is no current provincially funded, Ministry of Health funded building application costs, we cannot get that funded publicly. And because my salary will be fixed with no possibility to work overtime or anything like that, I personally am not willing to take out a business loan to build the clinic. So the building costs for this clinic are $180,000. And to put that in perspective, your average family practice clinic in the South Island costs about $400,000 to $500,000 to renovate a space into a family practice. So ours is $180,000, which is significantly less. And to give another example, the family practice in Langford that just opened up and will have, I think, 10 physicians working there, it cost them $1.7 million to build that clinic. So in comparison, this clinic cost is extremely low. And that's because the building is in such good condition from the renovations that have previously been done in that wing. The expensive part really is the plumbing. We have to put sinks in every exam room. We have to make sure the electrical is up to a certain code, so that's also quite expensive. So really, it's those costs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's all done through the society.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, the society has basically renovated or updated or built from scratch 5 other clinics already. So they're very experienced at doing this. And because they're a registered charity and nonprofit, any donations that go towards building this clinic are all tax deductible as long as they're more than $20. So you'll get a charity tax receipt, whether you're a business or an individual. And then if you're an individual or a business who's able to make a larger donation, then you would be considered a sponsor, which means your name or your business's name would be in the clinic. And there's certain aspects that go with those larger donations as well. So they all go through it. Like no one's making a profit off of this. Like, this is all nonprofit. And then the clinicians eventually, when there is a structure, are salaried with no chance of increasing salary. Sorry.
Okay. Jay, do you have any questions online?
I don't. They're little, but just to thank Ms. Cowlrick for her work, and I am aware of another fundraising initiative that a local organization is developing, so look forward to supporting that. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for joining us this evening, and thanks for your good work.
Wonderful. Thanks so much again for having me.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have time for public participation. Should you wish to speak at the microphone, you have 4 minutes. We have a monitor there that will turn yellow when you have 30 seconds and red when you're out of your time. Everybody's welcome. Please state your name and your road. Metchosin.
Hi, I am Colin Sparks from Liberty Drive in Metchosin. Good evening, members of the Gallery, Council, and your worship. This fall, the District of Metchosin sponsored our applications to the British Columbia Youth Parliament. Thank you deeply. It was an extraordinary experience and opportunity. Youth are far too long excluded from our democracy. We can drive, we can use the vehicles to run over people, we're forced to pay taxes, we can work jobs, we have other things to pay for in life, and yet many of us in our youth demographic can't even vote. And this is, quite disappointing from the perspective of we have to face a lot of the benefits and also unfortunate outcomes of our elected members of parliament, whether that's, in the climate system or also just city infrastructure. We have to live through these experiences, and yet we can't actually vote for people to represent us there. So it is, so BCYP is an organization for youth serving youth. It started in 1924, served every year since the occasional year back in World War II, and it is held every year in the Provincial Legislative Assembly of British Columbia, in the very same seats our MLAs sit in, and it is held from December 27th to New Year's Eve. And the hours are long, it's 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. with a lunch and dinner break, but it is a very rewarding experience for personal growth, knowledge learned about our parliamentary system, and networking with other like-minded youth. Like-minded youth is deeply rewarding. Our session is run off of the British Parliament Westminster style and includes one of my favorite parts, which is question period. Those are always very entertaining to question each other there. And one of our more important parts is private member resolutions, where us youth can, write actual, we can help people draft it. People write a resolution on a topic they're concerned about, whether that's members from their community or something they hold personally to themselves. We debate it in the House there, and then we also have that sent off to people in actual government for them to consider, although often they just, kind of throw it out. Just still having that kind of voice to youth who aren't served in our province and to serve in those very seats our MLAs do is deeply rewarding. So it's not just about, going to some boot camp for learning about politics, but BCYP is a place and an outlet for youth of all interests and backgrounds to meet other like-minded youth and represent the youth of their ridings who may not have a voice to be heard. Thank you so much, Metchosin, for supporting myself and Griffin's application to be getting into that. And I will stay to the end of this meeting if you want to see any photos I have from the event and also just to chat more. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad both of your experiences are rewarding.
Hello, I'm Griffin. I live on Lysandra Road, and thank you for letting me speak about my experience about BCYP. And I just want to thank Metchosin for sponsoring me and Colin. As someone that didn't really have much experience in politics at all, and someone that wasn't interested, getting to try that out really broadened my horizons, I think. And I think it kind of led to me realizing that I could advocate for myself as a youth, and I should get more involved with local politics. And this is kind of my first foray into it, speaking in front of you, and I'm a bit nervous, but I just want to thank you all for letting me have that opportunity. As someone that probably wouldn't have went unless I was sponsored, it really has changed my life and has taught me so much about the system and how it works, and maybe the pros and cons, you might say. And yeah, I just want to keep it short and sweet. I just want to thank you all and letting me stand up here and speak in front of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you have a comment, Councillor Gray?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a personal thanks to the rest of the council. I think it was a really good idea to sponsor these two young people to go to the BC Youth Parliament, and we'll reap the benefits, I'm sure. So thanks for coming tonight.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak this evening?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brent Donaldson, Chalister Court. I'd like to speak this evening to address a couple items on the Good Neighbor bylaw. I certainly can speak firsthand from some of the challenges as it relates to power equipment use and times. Just to give you an example, we talk about power equipment, we talk about push mowers, walk behind mowers, string trimmers, even ride-on mowers. And when it relates to decibel levels, they average around 93. And certainly in our neighborhood some years ago, we had some issues, and it was the use of power saws late at night. And those levels are about 113. So when we look at decibel levels and increasing, we always just think if it's 113 and then it's 114, the graduation isn't intensity. So for every 10 decibel increases, it doubles in intensity. So when we're looking at something that's 93, and when we look at something that is 113, we're looking at a spread of 20. So I think when we look at the noise levels and certainly the safety issues that go along with operating a power saw, certainly in the dark, I understand people get home from work and they want to do some yard maintenance. Certainly, I understand that. People cutting their lawn, doing some trimming. But to me, certainly a power saw and cutting firewood into the evening and into the dark time of evening is, to me, is not respectable for the neighbors and from a safety point of view as well. Certainly to have power saw included is in lawn care. To me, I think it should be moved to maybe a construction activity, strictly on the volume and the respect for neighbors. Certainly in our neighborhood, we're fairly close to the Center Mountain project, and when they're cutting trees down there, they're probably 1.5 miles away, and it's like it's in our living room. So the sound definitely travels as opposed to somebody cutting their lawn. So I hope you can take that into consideration. I know my neighbors and I have had some issues over the years, and it'd certainly be nice to have the rules so it's fair to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patty Whitehouse, Rocky Point Road. I also want to make some comments about the noise and disturbance bylaw. And I'm sorry, I did make notes for myself, but somehow they didn't transfer to my iPad, so I have to try and remember. So Metchosin is a place where some people, like me, have moved, in part because we want to enjoy a rural way of life, which very often includes keeping livestock. I am quite disturbed that this version of the bylaw provides good protection for people who are farming, farming on agricultural land, reserve land, or farming as is specified under the farming my mouth is certainly not working very well today. Farm Practices Protection Act. But there is absolutely no protection for people who are either legitimately farming or just keeping a few chickens and a goat for the milk for the kids, that kind of thing, on property where they are permitted to under our land use bylaw. To me, that is a very grave omission. I think we probably all know of people who have been harassed by new neighbors who moved to the country for the peace and quiet and then complain about the neighbors' chickens. If we truly want to be a rural municipality, then we have to support rural activities, within reason, of course. But this bylaw does not do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak this evening? Okay, thank you very much for your input. Let's move along to the adoption of the minutes. Item number 4 on page 7 of the agenda. We've got the special council meeting minutes of January 30 for adoption. I'll take a motion to adopt.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have the February 2nd regular council meeting. Move for adoption. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we have receipt of the minutes from February 3rd. This is the Peninsula and Area Agricultural Commission. This is on page 17 of your agenda. Move receipt by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have the February 9th Committee of the Whole minutes for receipt.
Go for receipt.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. Some of you haven't been here lately, and you'll notice that we've moved to electronic versions of our agendas, saving many, many trees and thousands of papers. So you'll have to be patient with us as we go through our electronic version. Regarding the next item, which is my mayor's report, from an in-camera meeting of today, March 2nd, 2026, the citizen appointments to the advisory select committees. Council's made the following appointments to the advisory committees. For the Agriculture Advisory Select Committee, Judy Carter has been appointed. For the Healthy Community Advisory Select Committee, Patricia Fatla has been appointed. And for the Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee, Ian Baxter, Emma Horgan, and Chris Thibodeau have been appointed to the Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee. So thank you for everybody that put in their applications. Secondly, I just want to acknowledge that today is the Search and Rescue Volunteer Memorial Day. Dedicated volunteers dedicate their time, their service, their sacrifice, their tenacity. We honor all of this in the search and rescue volunteers, for the search and rescue volunteers throughout BC. This is a very demanding position, requires compassion and care and good work ethic, courage and passion, and resilience, and they give up a lot of time for training, as well as going out and searching and rescuing people, as well as their families do give back because they're missing that family member. So we just want to acknowledge the search and rescue volunteers that we have lost since 1967, only 17, but 17 too many. We want to recognize that and remember. And that's it. I'll have a more fulsome report at the next council meeting. Business arising, number 7. This is the February from the February 3rd Peninsula and Area Agricultural Commission. This is regarding the invitation to the Minister of Agriculture to attend the upcoming meeting to review permitted uses in the Agricultural Land Commission or Land Reserve and a minimum requirement to be an agricultural producer. Councillor Donaldson, do you want to speak to this item?
Yeah, so this last month I attended the meeting of PAC, and as it's a new group, they were restructuring the last 8 months, so there's some new people there, cross-section of farmers, people who plant into the dirt, other people who have livestock, young farmers, older farmers, livestock farmers. And so it came to an there were 5 different, I reported this at our last meeting here, that there were 5 different, what do we call them, documents that we had to look at for 2 different municipalities. It's a 4-member municipality advisory committee. And at these meetings, PAC deciphers whether or not they fit into the ALR or they don't, or what activities that they're allowed to or not allowed to have. And actually all 5 of them were rejected. So they went back to the 2-member municipalities with documentation as to why. And a lot of that falls into regulations under the ALR. So the group, because they are also not just giving advice, but it's a lot of education needed, felt it would be an opportunity to invite our MLA, Madam Popham, to come and speak to us. Well, she's not just our MLA, she's the Ministry of Agriculture, to come and have a conversation with the people. These are meetings that are open to the public, so the public could also attend, I suspect, and learn more about what you can and cannot do, is what the restrictions are or the opportunities are of using agricultural land and why that land is put into a reserve, and maybe some history on that as well. So that is what this is about.
Okay. Did you want to put the resolution on the table?
Yeah, so the resolution reads, and I move, that Council authorize the Peninsula and Area Agriculture Commission to extend an invitation to the Minister of Agriculture to attend an upcoming meeting to review permitted uses in the Agricultural Land Reserve and minimum requirements to be an agricultural producer.
Okay, this is moved by Councillor Donaldson. Looking for a seconder? I'll second that motion. Go ahead, Councillor Donaldson. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. Thank you. Thank to the PAC for asking for us for our advice, and I think this is a great idea. Yeah, she's very engaging, as you know. Yes, and has a lot of wisdom. So, anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Gray.
I'm just wondering about the protocol in terms of an advisory committee inviting the Minister of Agriculture. We haven't ourselves met with the Minister of Agriculture. But maybe I could just clarify, is this that the committee wants to put forward their views on permitted uses and their views on minimum requirements for agriculture? That would be one thing. Or is this about the minister informing them about permitted uses in agricultural land and minimum requirements? The reason I ask is it seems to me the minister advising them makes sense, but them advising the minister of their positions, perhaps we could learn about what those positions are before they're advocating at the ministerial level for those points.
So it's my understanding that one of the reasons how this came about in the conversation is there are a lot of people that don't understand what the limitations are or the process of what it takes to be on an agricultural land reserve. There are different rules than there would be, like, I'm a farmer and I don't live on an ALR, but I just farm my property, similar to what Ms. Whitehouse was suggesting here. So this is more to learn from Ms. Popham as to what the Act is about, what the regulations are, and it covers a lot of different things. It covers agritourism. it would cover things like, you know, trees, housing, that sort of thing, so that people, so that when this group is making decisions, that they actually are better informed. And the fact that we have new people there, they probably don't have all the information that some of the people have been on there for some time. So it's seeking information from her. I don't believe it's to make decisions or pass things to her, because they are accountable to the 4 member municipalities.
Go ahead, Councillor Gray.
Thanks, that's very helpful. So get the minister to give them that kind of advice. It might be better for them to shoot for the deputy minister or an assistant deputy minister who would know these issues better than the minister would, I expect. But that's just a suggestion back to the group. Or perhaps be satisfied when the assistant deputy minister arrives.
Well, the minister is very knowledgeable, and she has a lot of energy, and she goes out to a lot of communities, so I wouldn't be surprised if she arrived, but they'll probably make that at the ministerial level. One of the examples that PAC might be dealing with is they get referrals from the districts, from the municipalities. I know the district of Saanich has received referrals for non-farm use on farmland, non-farm use applications, and they may have encountered some nuances that they want clarification from the ministry, and I think it's good for the minister to also hear from them where the gaps in the system, where they've been unable to make decisions one way or the other because there have been gap. I think it would be a great conversation with the minister. Go ahead.
I do believe that if Ms. Papa cannot make it, she will send somebody in her place. But having been a farmer herself and a member of PAC many years ago, I think she will be a wealth of knowledge, and certainly she has resources and resourceful people to work with. So she wouldn't be doing this just on her own. So if she's not available, then certainly there'd be somebody in place, or it would be maybe a different time, or hopefully we can get somebody out to talk about it. It would be a good opportunity.
Councillor Shukin, did you want to weigh in?
I support the motion. It seems to me like it's a good opportunity for dialogue between a local group and obviously at the ministerial and government level. So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for discussion.
Okay. With that, I think I'll call the question. All in favor? Just shout out. Okay, Jay?
I'm in favor. Yeah.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have on 7B, the February 9th Committee of the Whole Recommendations, 2026 Grant and Aid from Previously Exempt Properties. We had quite a fulsome discussion at our Committee of the Whole meeting. What I'd suggest is we take the first 7 as one, and then I understand that Councillor Donaldson may declare a conflict of interest, so we'll take that one at the end. So with that, I'll take a motion for the first 1 through 7, which includes the addition from the 5-year financial plan to direct staff to issue the grants and aids sufficient to offset the remaining 2026 property taxes payable to the, number 1, the Anglican Synod Diocese of BC, to the BC Parks Foundation, the BC Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the Metchosin Community Hall, the Victoria Humane Society, and the YWCA of Vancouver Island.
So moved.
This is moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Councillor Shukin, did you want to comment?
I don't any further. We had a fulsome, as you say, a fulsome discussion last time, and again, we heard from both the community and members of these groups about the value of the tax exemptions with their monetary equivalents, and I think we've set things right and look forward to further discussion later this year.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pleased that we're bringing this full circle and getting back on track. I look forward to the future discussion of this come late spring. Thank you.
Councillor Gray.
I'm going to speak in support of the motion. Tonight's efforts will only do half the job, as we know. I want the council to return to providing permissive tax exemption for local nonprofits whose services align with our strategic plan and community values. I'll remind you, we had got 99 letters of correspondence and emails and many presentations to council and committees to reverse the decision that was made last September. And for the community to know, in June, we're scheduled to look at the 2027 permissive tax exemption bylaw. And I'm hoping that that time will restore those to the former glory in keeping with the community's views. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Are you opposed?
I'm in favor. I just had something else to add.
You want to add something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to, again, welcome the Victoria Humane Society to Metchosin. But in a previous presentation to council, we were discussing with them the potential of a covenant on their property for the protection of riparian areas and the tree canopy as part of the request for tax exemptions. We agreed to provide them a tax exemption last spring. Then there was the removal of tax exemptions in the fall. But at our last meeting, Councillor Shukin was talking about being connected a little bit with that group. And it seems to me that the analysis done by our chief financial officer of the applications that we got said that the property owner's intended use did not meet any of council's strategic priorities. And that would mean that when we look at this in June, they would no longer be eligible for a tax exemption. And so I'm just wondering, Councillor Shukin, might you pursue that discussion with the group, or should we have staff? I just want to be sure that we get it so they know what's coming and they got lots of notice. They could move and covenant some of their property or all of their property, and that would bring them in line for a tax exemption. But without that, I think it would be good to let them know. So that's a question through the chair to Councillor Shukin.
Councillor Shukin, did you hear the question?
Okay, I sort of did. Is council, sorry, the question or the thought is that the Victoria Humane Society would not be eligible for a PTA because they have not advanced on a covenant? Is that the inference you're making?
No, I guess what I'm saying is that absent a covenant, they don't meet the criteria for the tax exemption policy that we approved in July of 2025, as explained by our CFO. So I just want them to be on so that they're aware of that issue and that we don't surprise them come June. I just want to make sure we're procedurally fair with them, let them know so that we can carry on. And if it's not you, Councillor Shukin, then I think we can ask staff to do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to action that at all, and I'm willing to relook at the criteria. And I think the Humane Society is a very valued new member of this community, and I'm certainly looking forward to helping them fulfill their mission. That's my own personal perspective. We can talk further about it when this comes up again. So.
Well, Mayor Little, then I guess I'd like to ask that we ask staff at least have that discussion so we don't get caught in this place where people don't know what the rules are. We've passed a policy. It is our policy. As Councillor Shukin might advance a change to the policy, but I think it would be well advised now if we grant them their exemption that we let them know where they stand for 2027.
Sure, and so what you're suggesting is that anybody who receives a permissive tax exemption who has a property greater than an acre or a hectare or something, that they also apply for covenants, protective covenants for their land?
No, I'm not suggesting that so much. The request this evening is simply to let them know that they wouldn't make the cut in future because we put forward a new policy that we've agreed as a council. I'm only noting that they were discussing a covenant, and that would mean they could possibly swing under our policy and receive a tax exemption next year. But without that, our policy would exclude them.
Okay, and so are you suggesting also that staff reach out to the Victoria Motorcycle Club to the Anglican Synod, as well as the YMCA, YWCA, who also have larger lands?
No, I'm not suggesting that at all. They all, according to our CFO doing the analysis, they all met criteria of our strategic plan and the focus of the district. So all of them, seems to me, would be eligible under the policy.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering if I could get our CFO, Jeffrey Creek, to weigh in here.
Through the chair, thank you. So there's two of them that didn't actually meet anything from the strategic priorities for council, and that was the SPCA and the Humane Society. So if they were going to be denied permissive tax exemptions based on that, then we should reach out to both of them. But depends on how you want to handle it. If you want to pass a motion for that.
Okay, so it would, based on that criteria that we were holding, we would hold the Victoria Humane Society. It would also apply for the SPCA, the Wild Ark.
Through the chair, correct.
Okay. Okay, I think this warrants further discussion at some point, probably when we are discussing the permissive tax exemptions. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? No one opposed. Oh, that's unanimous. Now we'll take the last one.
So Mayor Little, I'd like to recuse myself due to a perceived conflict of interest as members of my family are members of the Victoria Motorcycle Club.
Okay. We'll just wait for Councillor Donaldson to exit the room. Okay, Councillor Shukin or Councillor Gray, would you like to put forward the motion, please?
So moved.
Move that council direct staff to issue grant and aid sufficient to offset the remaining 2026 property taxes payable for the Victoria Motorcycle Club. This is moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Comment? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. That's unanimous. If we can get Councillor Donaldson back in, please.
Mayor, I just want to make a comment. When we discussed this at the Committee of the Whole, we heard from the YMCA about the Camp Thunderbird and how difficult this was for them. They also mentioned that the possibility that we might be able to assist them in their stewardship, of that environment there. I think their big issue was the tax exemption, but I think it's probably worth further discussion with them if there's anything else that we might do. They're pretty important in our community in terms of service for the children that they serve, but also a key part of the C2C Green and Blue Belt. So kind of an interesting challenge that they offered us and worth looking into. I'd be happy to do that as part of the environment and natural areas if you like.
Yeah, that would be fine. I think we made it clear that we were interested in providing advocacy for them. So I thought that the ball was in their court if they had requests to us, but certainly you can reach out to them. Okay, we've got reports for action next. On page 33 of the council agenda, we have a report on
Mayor
the...
Gill?
Yes.
Sorry, we just skipped over item 6, just the Committee of the Whole recommendations. 6C, sorry.
Oh, I skipped over. Oh, I'm
7C.
sorry. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. Okay, just going back to 7C. This is from the February 9th Committee of the Whole recommendation, the official community plan, protection of sensitive environments. Do you want to take this one, Councillor Gray?
Sure, I move that council approve the preliminary mapping categories proposed by MEASC to describe Metchosin sensitive environments towards an update of OCP map 4.
Yeah, this is moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Councillor Gray.
Yeah, so once again, this is simply MEASC wanting to fulfill our obligations under the OCP for mapping of sensitive environments. the current data sets available to do mapping are different than what were there when the OCP was established so many years ago. And so we're hoping to explore those and then report back. So really this recommendation is about getting the ask moving forward to examine and see what the best manner is to update map 4, which represents the sensitive ecosystems in Metchosin.
Thank you. Councillor Shukin.
Not much to say other than look forward to seeing the work progress.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Donaldson, anything? No.
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So for those members that attended the Youth Parliament, much of what we're dealing with tonight has been previously discussed at the Committee of the Whole meeting. And the idea of discussing it at the committee level and then ratification at a future council meeting provides that opportunity for sober second thought. If there's any new information or second guessing whatever was decided on at the Committee of the Whole, and that's why we do it in this way. Okay, moving on now to reports for action. We have the Municipal By-Election report on page 33 of your council agenda. Are we going to have a presentation by Ms. Hanson? Thank you.
Good evening. This report provides information to council in determining whether to hold a by-election in the year of a general local election. The recent resignation of Councillor Epp has created a vacancy on council which triggers the requirement to hold a by-election to fill that vacancy. The Local Government Act states that a municipality may decide to not hold a by-election if the vacancy occurs after June 1 in the year of a general local election. However, the Act states a municipal council may decide that a by-election is not to be held if all of the following circumstances apply. The vacancy occurs after January 1 in the year of a general local election that will fill that office. Vacancy is not an office elected on the basis of a neighborhood constituency, and the number of remaining members is at least one greater than quorum of the council as set out in the community charter. By-elections are the same as general local elections, but with compressed timelines and must be held within 80 days from the time council appoints a chief election officer. In determining whether or not a by-election is to be held in Metchosin pursuant to council's authority under the Act, council may also wish to consider budget implications, staff resources, and the number of remaining meetings between the by-election and the general local election on Saturday, October 17th. I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, let's get to the first recommendation on the table. Would somebody like to move that? Councillor Gray.
I'll move that a by-election to fill a vacancy on council not be held in 2026.
Okay. This is moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I think that given the timing, there's sort of a lack of utility in terms of having a by-election. So what I'm reading here is the by-election would need to occur, or the earliest it would occur would be June 6th, leaving only 4 meetings for a new member of the council to attend. And when I look at the cost of running a by-election, all the effort that would go in by staff, I don't see that it's a useful course of action.
Yeah, Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, I'll be supporting this motion as well, given the report information that Ms. Hanson has provided us, as well as the by-election timeline. Leading up to that, the cost of it, the opportunity for the declaration of official election results, voting. There's not a lot of time for, there's like 1 meeting in July, no meetings in August, a convention in September, maybe 1 or 2 more meetings. It doesn't give the elected person a lot of time for orientation or, to be part of this. I think for me, it's the fiscal part of it that is, it's quite expensive, especially that we will have an election in October.
Mhm.
So to be cognizant of that and the cost to our taxpayers, I'll support not doing a by-election at this time.
Okay, Councillor Shukin.
Thank you. I'll also be supporting the motion. The fiscal impact is significant, but more to me, it is the work made on staff resources, especially in an election year. We have very little time left, but I think we still have an ambitious agenda ahead of ourselves. And so great that we're not going to put an additional burden on us. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I concur with everything that has been said this tonight, and I won't reiterate that. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor that the by-election to fill a vacancy on council is not held in 2026, pursuant to council's authority under section 54(3) of the Local Government Act. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? See none opposed, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then along with the many duties that our staff have for the regular election is appointing the chief and deputy election officers. And we've got this is something that we have to do. Could I have somebody make the motion, please? Go ahead, Councillor Gray.
I move that Carrie Fedosenko be appointed as Chief Election Officer for the District of Metchosin 2026 General Local Election, and that Tina Hansen be appointed a Deputy Chief Election Officer for the District of Metchosin 2026 General Local Election.
This is moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then we've got a revised acting mayor schedule of 2026. This is because of, unfortunately, because of Councillor Epps' resignation. We've just moved it up here. It's attached as the report here. If that's okay, I will ask for the motion. Councillor Gray.
The council approve the schedule of acting mayors for 2026 as amended.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none opposed. That carries. Thank you. And we've got reports for information. I'm just going to pause so everybody can get those up on their screen. This is the January report for January 2026, the Metchosin Building Inspection Department report. Make a motion to receive. This is moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Comments? No? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And next we have the District of Metchosin Public Communication Report of January 2026. Move receipt by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Comments?
Just an observation that it looks like we're having land use by law enforcement issues at a much higher rate than last year. Year to date 7, last year only 1.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something in the air. I don't know if there's anything to explain there through the chair of the CAO. Is there anything of note for council to observe or take a role in?
Typically council doesn't get involved in bylaw enforcement, but perhaps the CAO, there's an uptick in the land use reports that are coming into the office.
Yeah, there could be an increase in the number of complaints for one particular land use that's got people concerned, so that's why the numbers would be up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I do the motion? I can't remember. Yes, I did. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then we have the CRD bylaw, Animal Care Services Bylaw Enforcement Summary of 2025. Oh, did you say something, Tina? No, sorry. Okay. And you have the report there. I'll take a motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. And then correspondence. we do have correspondence from Ms. Bacon regarding the Good Neighbors bylaw. Here she commented on removal of invasive species as well as against residential property used as a commercial parking lot, asking us if we could insert something into there. This is based on the intention of a home-based business. Metchosin should become a parking lot, okay? And then roadside parking, parking their vehicles along the roadside. Okay, so receive for information, take a motion, moved by, thank you, moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. And then we next have our first bylaw. This is the District of Metchosin Good Neighbor Bylaw, number 716. We've got a report here. Okay, we've got, everybody got them up on their screens. Yep. Okay. Ms. Hanson, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. The proposed Good Neighbor bylaw replaces the existing noise and unsightly premises bylaws. Enacting a Good Neighbor bylaw helps to improve the quality of life in the community by addressing nuisances and disturbances that can affect residents' enjoyments of their properties. It encourages good relationships between neighbors and establishes clear expectations for behavior of property owners. Bylaw number 716 includes provisions around nuisance, including noise, unsightly properties, odors, accumulation of water which may impact adjacent properties, and invasive species that may cause harm to the environment. The bylaw also provides opportunity to seek temporary exemptions to noise by applying for a temporary noise permit. These permits provide short-term authorization to allow for certain activities for a period of up to 1 week. The recommendation is for council to consider the first 3 readings of the bylaw. However, if there are going to be any amendments made to the bylaw, I would just suggest that council consider first and second reading and then consider any amendments.
Okay. Okay. So council, you've had the opportunity to read the revised Good Neighbor bylaw. What do you think? What are your comments? Are there any omissions? Comments by our correspondence writer? Who wants to start? I know that you all have comments. Councillor Shukin, do you want to start?
I'd actually like to hear from my colleagues first.
Sure. Okay, colleagues, does anybody want to start? Councillor Donaldson, be brave. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I've mulled this over quite a lot. I see some improvements and I see some, well, it's a lean bylaw in some respects. Looking at the feedback we've gotten tonight, the correspondence from Ms. Bacon, Patty Whitehouse and Brent Donaldson, it makes me also pause for thought a little bit. The one thing that stood out for me was the statement under section 7H, where we've got lawnmower power gardening equipment aligning with a chainsaw, and then above it, and there's hours that go with that. Those hours are all very compatible, and I know that there was a petition from my own neighborhood. Actually, the neighbors were quite concerned that they wouldn't be able to, do their lawn mowing after they get home from work and such. However, most of them would not be doing that at 9 o'clock at night either, with the exception of the odd person might, but most people would not do that. So I reassured them that, this was going to certainly, this bylaw, which is, for this particular activity, is 7 days a week, with the exception of Sunday and holidays being a little bit shorter timeline in the daytime, as opposed into the evening. So it's quite generous in that regard when I look at other communities. Some communities you're not allowed to do any of this sort of work on Sundays or holidays. And I did look at rural communities in that respect, because this is the comparable for us here. I toiled over this considerably as to where a chainsaw would actually fit, because there isn't space in here to chainsaw in an evening like tonight, for example. It's 8 o'clock, it's dark outside. So that doesn't really fit. Having said that, people aren't doing too much in the way of gardening equipment either. So we would have to trust that people would use some sense about that. But then if I look further up into the other section, it could just be moved to say something like, what's the statement here?
So where exactly are you, just so everybody can follow along
the
with your
chainsaw
thoughts?
one is 7H.
Okay.
If we put it into 7G, it really still doesn't fit, because that's the erection, demolition, construction, reconstruction, alteration, repair of building or other structure between the hours of. The hours would stay the same, but would we then say including chainsawing? It doesn't fit there either. It could be that we don't even state chainsaw, and that it automatically would come under something like that not allowed to cause noise by machinery activity, right, in processing and that. So my concern is from lived experience as well, but and having family members who actually operate chainsaws, you can have chainsaws that don't make a lot of noise, and you can have chainsaws that do make a lot of noise. So does it fit in with yard care? I'm not certain that it does. We have a bylaw that allows people to take a certain number of trees down per year as well. So it just seems to me to lump it into yard care with such a noisy machine or activity, it doesn't fit in this particular one. I would like to hear what my colleagues have to say on it. Generally, chainsaws are used for tree removal, bucking up logs, wood processing, preparing timber for milling, and that sort of thing. Again, we don't have specifics in this bylaw to cover wood chipping or milling. We have had complaints about some sawmills in our community. There are several small sawmills that don't make noises, and some that are different sizes that do.
So may I suggest, since
Yes.
I suspect you're not going to let this go, why don't we add item I and just say the use of a chainsaw between the hours of, what do you propose, 7 to
The hours,
7?
the same as what is in G, would be suitable. The days and the times.
Okay, well then maybe make the use of a chainsaw between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7
Mayor
p.m.
Hill.
Monday through Saturday.
Sorry to interrupt. Could we get first and second reading on the table before any further discussion?
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's do that. Okay. Councillor Gray, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll move that council give first reading to the District of Metchosin Good Neighbor Bylaw 2026, number 716.
Okay. This is moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by
Second.
Councillor Shukin. I'll call the question, then we'll go to second reading, okay? Oh, did you want to say anything, Councillor Gray? No. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Go ahead to the second reading.
The council gives second reading to the District of Metchosin Good Neighbor Bylaw 2026, number 716.
This is moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by
A second.
Councillor Shukin. Okay. Any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous again. Okay. So we'll have a discussion now. That's normal protocol. So that would be the addition of an item H, the use of a chainsaw between the hours of 7 to 7, Monday through Saturday, or 9 to 6 on a holiday. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, that is what I'm suggesting. Yes,
then-
without getting too wordy in it.
And then I would be what is now H, the use of the lawnmower and power gardening equipment. Okay. Would that be okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, so let's keep that amendment. Anything else, Councillor Donaldson?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Gray.
Yeah, so should we move the amendment and deal with that?
What would you suggest, Tina?
So once you're finished having your discussion, if there's no further amendments, then you would amend the bylaw and then give third reading as amended.
Okay, so we do it all at once.
So, ready? So I have a different amendment to suggest, and that relates to, it's under property maintenance 16E.
Okay, just let everybody get to that. Did you say 16?
Yeah, 16E.
E, okay.
And right now 16E reads, I'll just read the first few words, would be, an owner or occupier of a parcel, building, or structure must not cause, allow, or suffer plants to proliferate on the property that are identified as alien invasive species in the schedule to the spheres of concurrent jurisdiction, environment, and wildlife regulation under the community charter. And the amendment I would propose would be to strike that.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
And so,
And I can explain that.
okay. So this is a motion by Councillor Gray. Do I have a seconder?
Mayor Little?
Yes.
So sorry, we'll just discuss the amendments.
Oh, yeah, right.
and then
Sorry,
make a
sorry,
motion.
sorry. Yeah. Okay,
So-
go ahead, Councillor
Yeah,
Gray.
so my concern is that, and I apologize for not having caught this earlier when we saw it in its earlier iteration. The difficulty I've got here is that, well, if I take a look at Bev Bacon's letter, and she's raised some good issues, and initially I read it and I thought, oh no, that's okay. This is simply an enabling bylaw. In other words, it's going to allow us to act or not act in different circumstances. So today I spoke at length with the Deputy Corporate Officer about how this might work. My concern is the way that it's written now, if we pass this bylaw tonight and we turn to the reference schedule, which is in the community charter, what would happen is we would be saying that anybody who owns property in Metchosin who has any of these invasive plants on it, they're suddenly an outlaw. Now, whether we enforce it or not is a different question, but the way the definitions work, for example, if you had blackberries on your Himalayan blackberry on your property, then you would be contravening this bylaw. And so we'd be saying to many, many people, you're, not behaving well, you've broken the bylaws and that kind of thing. So the fix that the Deputy Corporate Officer and I were discussing today was to modify the language here so that it might say plants to proliferate on the property that are identified as being one that we want to manage in the district and are on the list, then we could carry on. But as we went back and forth today, we realized that wasn't much of a solution from a legal perspective, if I just leave it that way. The Deputy Corporate Officer offered a different alternative, which was we could say, well, according to Schedule A, and we could list different plants in Schedule A. And then we realized, well, that's a problem too, because it still puts us in that position of having to have a schedule with these plants on it that may or may not exist on someone's property. And we may or may not want to act, but we'd have made them, again, I'll say it, an outlaw. So what I'm proposing here is that I'd like to see that this entire bylaw, the Good Neighbor bylaw, go forward tonight or get to our first, second, and third reading tonight. And I don't think at the table we're going to be able to come up with something to fix this problem. So I'd like to make this amendment to remove it, and we'll come back at it another time. It's a complicated issue, and I think we're on the edge of over-regulating, and I don't think that's a good position for us to be in. Invasive species are important. This came up over gorse. The key recommendation from the person who wrote us about it, Kathy Atherton, some time ago, was that we get to working on the district properties and boulevards, and maybe that's where we should focus the Gorse approach for now, and then come back to this with some further discussion with our deputy corporate officer, our corporate officer, and probably the CRISP group. That's the Capital Regional Invasive Species Partnership, just to figure this one out. So that's my recommendation.
Okay. Does anybody else want to comment on 17 or 16E?
So, yes, I would like to.
Go ahead, Councillor Shukin.
I'm in favor of keeping this in. I do recognize that it may be problematic in terms of enforcement, but I also want to remind people that our bylaw system is generally based on a complaint, it's premised on a complaint-based system. So as much as, we all have invasives on our property, it is likely that only the serious issues are going to be tagged for enforcement. And there are properties out there that have been the subject of considerable dumping and fill being brought in, whether it's gravel or dirt or even woody debris, which is not allowed anymore. But if and those sites are ripe for the proliferation of alien invasive species, Scotch burn, blackberry, holly, bulrush to come up as well. So those are problem sites that do need to be taken care of. And I like the idea of having a mechanism to be able to take that on in terms of the problem sites. I'm in favor of continuing to maintain this provision.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson, did you wish to weigh in?
Well, both my colleagues bring up some very good points. I certainly understand what Councillor Gray is saying about it's actually sounding a lot more punitive. And yes, we all have invasives on our properties. It becomes a full-time job sometimes taking care of it, but there's some people who cannot, and that's why we do it as volunteer groups. But do we want to punish them or then charge them for staff to go in and take it out as well? So there has been a lot of awareness brought about with some community members. We had an insert in our tax notice last year about invasive species, so the educational component is there. I'm not really sure which way to go on this. I would like to see this whole bullet bylaw go through tonight. I didn't want to do a whole rework of everything, which is why I kind of stumbled over my own comments. And still trying to consider what some of the speakers have said too, with there are other things where people are feeling are not being addressed on farms or the enjoyment of their properties, this sort of thing, and activities they want to do in a rural community. And we are addressing and updating the language on our bylaws. So yeah, I'm not sure where to go with this one.
Yeah, I'm in favor of keeping it, especially considering the invasive species such as gorse, which could be a threat to the community. We know that from California, where massive amounts of gorse were let go, and they have this oil in them, and they cause quite extensive property damage and threaten people actually. And so I'm just wondering if I can play the devil's advocate, Councillor Gray, and contrast E with A. So people do have, some people do have litter, refuse, garbage, abandoned materials, or vehicles, appliances. How would that, why is it so different for the invasive species? Can you articulate that for me?
Yeah, I think perhaps I can, but I'll do that by dropping back to Councillor Shukin's comments. So, Councillor Shukin, through the chair, you're really repeating the conversation that I had today with the Deputy Corporate Officer. So there's two aspects to the question. One is somebody within the law? Yes or no? And then secondly, are you going to enforce the law? Yes or no? And Councillor Shukin is saying, yeah, but we don't have to enforce everyone. It'll all be complaint driven. I agree. The difficulty I have is calling everybody an outlaw simply because they've got some blackberries on their property. So it's not the enforcement part that I'm concerned about. And as I say, I had a good conversation about it today to sort it out in my mind. The issue is that people have these, and I don't want to say they're outside the law right from the get-go.
Okay. I'm not sure if I read anywhere in here that we were going to classify people as outlaws or in-laws. Where did you get that from?
This is a bylaw. If you break the bylaw, you're an outlaw. If you adhere to the bylaw, you're not an outlaw.
Okay, so what my question was, there are people with stripped appliances, equipment, machinery, vehicles, trailers, vessels, litter. So why is that one in particular different from the other items that are on the property, that they would also be considered, as you put it, an outlaw?
I don't think I have much more to explain. I've kind of laid out my position. I think that we should delete that section E.
Okay. I'm not convinced of that. Do you have any further thoughts, Councillor Donaldson or Councillor Shukin, on E?
Yeah, one further thought. I believe that we can anticipate as we move along in this that invasives are going to be more and more of a problem. And I'm going to talk about shiny geranium for a minute. That was, I think, detected on the island not so long ago, and it was noted as a species of concern. And it was the designation was eradicated because the idea was that if you get it right away, we can prevent its being widespread. Well, it has become widespread. It is everywhere, and we can expect more of them. And so when you think about things like, as you mentioned, red little gorse or Scotch broom or even holly, those have a fire risk to them. And there are properties in Metchosin that are overrun, say, with holly. The question should be asked probably is, should that be dealt with? And I think the answer is yes. Again, we have, those of us who've been very active in working on invasives, we've taken care both of our property and parcels outside of our own immediate zone. And there has been a net benefit in terms of lowering fire risk and lowering the spread of some of these species. There is not, and it's not just an aesthetic, there is a community benefit as well, and a community safety element. And I see this provision supporting that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And there are resources for people that can't afford to hire somebody. Certainly the Metchosin Invasive Species Co-op have gone on to private land, Doug Ruth's land in particular, to look after the Daphne and some of the gorse and broom. So there are avenues for people to get help. I really don't think that this bylaw is targeting people with a blackberry patch. This bylaw is there to protect the community. I don't see blackberry as a great threat to the community, but I do see gorse as a fire hazard to the community. So I won't speak in favor. I'll speak against that amendment of striking E. Okay. Councillor Donaldson, how do you feel about that one?
Yeah, we would have to be really careful with that because we have on our public lands, of course. So if we're asking people to take care of things, we need to take care of things as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We don't have to look too far to find horse on public property.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one. What else, was there any other concerns regarding the bylaw? Councillor Gray.
I have no other revisions.
You have more?
No other revisions.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson, did you have something else?
Perhaps I could just, though, respond to Patty Whitehouse, who made the comment about how this might fit a small operator farm. And I guess what I wanted to emphasize is that in order to be a nuisance, something has to be substantive and not unreasonable. And so I think the example of small farms is dealt with in that. We're not really after things that aren't a nuisance.
Yeah, so Ms. Whitehouse, I think what Councillor Gray is saying is that if you have 5 chickens in the yard, the reasonable person would expect there would be noise from 5 chickens, not necessarily a flock of 300. And I guess it is what the reasonable person would expect. And I think reasonably people moving to Metchosin should expect animal noises. And also take in mind that staff is also the ones that are dealing with these bylaws and dealing with liaising with the CRD bylaw to enforce the bylaw, so that they are going to take in consideration what a reasonable person would expect and what a reasonable person would demand living in Metchosin. Councillor Donaldson, you wanted to go over some of Miss Bacon's.
Well, so Ms. Bacon, and I'm not sure it's in the Good Neighbor bylaw, but she talks about roadside parking and residential parking. In the land use bylaw, we actually have, it's pretty clear there that people are supposed to, you know, if you have a roadside stand or a business or a suite, that you provide parking on your property, on your acreage, not on the street. And so that would be the roadside parking one. And there are a couple of neighborhoods in Metchosin that are starting to be crowded on the streets with overflow parking. Different if you're having a barbecue, and you know, usually the neighbors will let you know that, but those are one-offs. But if it's a constant, that is a concern for sure. And I know that in Miss Bacon's neighborhood there is what may look like a commercial parking lot. There's a lot of vehicles that have started parking on one particular property. So those, I don't know that it's in the Good Neighbor bylaw, but certainly it's in the land use bylaw. And for people to be more familiar with what you can and cannot do, it's an educational process. So yeah, Metchosin is not a parking lot. There's beautiful properties and there are spaces for that, and some restrictions on how you manage that.
Okay.
But it's not in this particular bylaw.
Okay, you know, let's have staff, shall we?
Sure.
Yeah, staff, I was wondering if you could comment, is the Good Neighbor bylaw a place to put limitations on roadside parking, as well as limitations on parking many vehicles on residential property? Meant to be commercial, but it's not commercial. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, message received on that concern. Been dealing with it lately as well with some complaints. The multiple vehicles on the lot, we have that in as part of our business license. It's in there, and that's something that we have to review as soon as we can, because there's some wording problems with that bylaw, and there's a little loophole in there where the term enclosed is, the definition of enclosed is ambiguous, and it's allowing people to park vehicles on their properties more so than we would appreciate. So that has to be cleaned up promptly. And the other one is parking near the road or in the boulevard. That would be more like the traffic safety kind of bylaw, and we can look at that and have a review of it. Message received.
Yeah. Okay, is that okay with you, Councillor Donaldson, that we not address those two issues? And they go, I agree with you, especially the parking of many vehicles, especially on farmland. It doesn't, or recreational vehicles, it doesn't make a lot of sense to tie up farmland for vehicle space.
Correct. And if you have a business, I do know a couple of businesses have left Metchosin. They still live here, but they actually buy property in an urban area because that's where they need to put their dump trucks or their fleet or mechanics or landscaping businesses or whatever, because that's the cost of doing business in the different kinds of communities and the rules that you've got to follow. So it applies to everybody.
Okay. And so we could address that in the business license renewal. Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Councillor Shukin, did you have any other comments?
I have no other comments, thank you.
Okay. Okay. With that, were you keeping track of the amendments, Ms. Hanson?
Yes, and I'll just put it to council, but I'm not sure if you want to consider those amendments separately. I should, when we get to the invasive species, I should let you know where the bylaw will change. So
I didn't understand you. Say that again.
sorry. I'm not sure if you want to take the use of the chainsaw amendment a little bit separately.
Sure. Why don't we do that? We'll take each amendment separately and then we'll give third reading. Is that what you would suggest?
Yeah, just one second. Sorry. So the revision for the chainsaw would be to add an I, and then the times 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 9 to 6 p.m. on holidays.
Yes. Okay. Yep. So shall I call? Yes. Okay. So this is moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. Any comments? This is on the chainsaw issue.
No, I just want to say that this amendment would reflect both our rural realities and our longstanding commitment to respectful coexistence. So I think that's helpful for all neighbors.
Okay. Councillor Gray?
Ready to vote?
Okay. Anything, Councillor Shukin?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the next one?
And the next one, that's related to section 16E. So the bylaw would be amended on the first page, right at the top, by striking "and other objectionable situations in relation to invasive species or invasive plants." The second preamble on page 1 would be stricken. That council regulate, prohibit, and impose requirements in relation to the protection of the natural environment by controlling and eradicating plants identified as alien invasive species in the spheres of concurrent jurisdiction, environment and wildlife regulation. And then provision 16E would be struck.
Okay. Okay. Does someone want to move this?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shukin. Do I have a seconder?
That's the way I think moved it, and no, I'm not seconding.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Did I say Councillor Shukin? I meant Councillor Gray. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I don't see a seconder, so that motion dies on the table. Okay. And the next one?
Now it's third reading as amended.
Yeah. Councillor Donaldson, do you want to go ahead with third reading? There'd be that, yeah.
Sorry, just gotta find.
Yeah,
it.
mine froze as well.
Is it the recommendation?
Yeah, just third reading of the District of Metchosin Good Neighbor Bylaw 2026, number 716.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Third reading.
Okay.
As amended.
So moved.
As amended, yes.
As amended. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by
I'll
Councillor Shukin, comments? Councillor Gray?
And speaking against the motion, and we'll vote against the motion because I feel like we're over-regulating and putting our residents in our community in an awkward position.
Okay. Anybody else?
A quick comment. Thank you very much for continuing to sustain the invasive species provision in the bylaw. One of the things I would point out is, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe the climate action plan that we passed early in the term has several references to invasive species. And like I said earlier, I think like we all see, they are becoming more and more of a problem as we move along. So I think this is an element that we maintain in the Good Neighbor bylaw that can be used in cases where there are extreme examples of neglect in terms of properties and the proliferation of what in many cases will be dangerous species in terms of fireworks. So again, I go back to the fact that if we want to put our money where our mouths are in terms of climate action and environmental preservation and biodiversity, this is a good step toward that. Thank you.
Okay. Before I go to second speakers, Councillor Donaldson? No? Okay. Go ahead.
So I just want to respond to Councillor Shukin's comments. This isn't about whether or not we control or address or manage invasive species. This is about a piece of legislation that I think is not fitting the purpose.
Okay. Well, seeing no other comments, I'll call the question. All in favor? Are you in favor, Councillor Shukin?
I am.
Okay. Those opposed? Councillor Gray opposed. That motion carries. Okay, so that's third reading. We'll go on next to the second bylaw. This is the District Metchosin Ticket Information Authorization Amendment Bylaw 2026, number 717. This is for first, second, and third reading as well. Ms. Hanson, thank you.
Thank you. Bylaw 717 amends the district's ticket information authorization bylaw by removing references to noise and unsightly premises bylaws and adding a new table, Schedule 17, to include offenses and penalties for the Good Neighbor bylaw. The bylaw also includes amending Schedule 8, the Metchosin Soil Removal and Deposit bylaw number 403 by updating references to Section 8A and adding a line for offenses and penalties for the deposit of other materials. This was an oversight made at the time Council amended the soil bylaw. This amendment, or the amendment to the MT bylaw, is being brought forward consecutively with the Good Neighbor bylaw, and the recommendation is for Council to consider first three readings.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Council, what say? Does anybody have any comments regarding the ticket bylaw? If not, I'll accept a motion for first reading.
Okay, I move that Council give first reading to the District Metchosin Ticket Authorization Amendment Bylaw 226, number 717.
Yeah, this is moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. Comments, Councillor Donaldson? Pretty straightforward.
It is.
Yeah. Councillor Gray? No? Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Same mover and seconder. Go ahead for the second.
Okay, that Council give second reading to the District of Metchosin Ticket Authorization Amendment Bylaw 226, or 2026 rather, number 717.
This is moved by Councillor Donaldson, second by Councillor Gray. Comments? Call the question. All in favor? That's unanimous. Go ahead with the third. Any other comments, questions, concerns, or changes at this point? Seeing none, go ahead, Councillor Donaldson.
That Council give third reading to the District of Metchosin Ticket Authorization Amendment Bylaw 2026, number 717.
Yep. This is moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Gray. Any comments? Call the question. All in favor? Those opposed? No one opposed. Okay, super. Next, we're going to move on to other business, which we have none, but we do have time for question period. Should you wish to ask any questions, we have 20 minutes. If you want to ask questions, please state your name and your road. That's for anybody in the participation gallery. If you'd like to ask a question, now is the time. And I don't see anybody. Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending. And could I have a motion for adjournment? Moved by Councillor Gray, second by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Shukin online.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.